Hey guys, this is Spencer from Pixel and Bracket, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do like a minimal text reveal animation in Adobe After Effects. Now this is like one of my first tutorials, so hang with me, bear with me. If you're an advanced user, please don't make fun of me. Alright, so this is one of my first After Effects tutorials, so I don't have all the tricks of the trade down yet, but I can do things in this program, and I want to show you guys how to create this animation effect right here. So it's just a minimal sort of text reveal type of animation. You've got a bar that sort of appears on the left, it swipes across, reveals some kind of text, and then swipes back and disappears. So the way this thing is built, if I just sort of drop down all of my keyframes on this guy with the shortcut key U, the Uber key, it's actually pretty simple. You guys can see here, I have a start and an end to the bar growing. That's the first two rows of keyframes, and then the position is keyframed on this bottom portion here. And so it basically opens up, it moves across, it holds, moves across, and closes up. That's all it is. That's all we're going to be building. And then as far as how this thing is actually revealed, I have a text layer underneath that obviously has Joe Smith written, and then I have a shape mask over the top of that, and you can actually see that shape mask if I pause the animation here. This square shape here, that's all that the mask is. It's just a shape, a white shape. But because we're using the alpha mask feature or alpha track matte feature from the text up to the shape mask, it's basically saying, okay, anywhere that shape is, reveal the text. Anywhere it is not, do not reveal the text. So as that shape moves across the text, it reveals it. And same thing happens when it moves back across the text. It just disappears. And we have that shape parented to the bar. So anywhere that the bar goes, the shape goes. That's why it sticks right there with it. So that's pretty much it. If you're an advanced user, you can probably figure this thing out just based on that. But let's start from scratch and just build this thing again. So I'm going to make a new composition. This is my little project panel over here. Oh, and by the way, I'm using the default workspace in After Effects. So you can go to Window, Workspace, and then down to Default. I don't know all the intricacies yet, so we're just going to work our way through this. I'm going to create a new composition. Just create new comp right here. Or if you don't have any composition selected, or I do. Here, let's exit out of this one here. You can create a new composition with this new composition button, which is available in CC 2018 now, or hit the little new composition button at the bottom of the project pane. Okay, let's just do it. Let's create one. Composition settings. Let's name this guy title, or no, we'll call it text reveal. And then I just preset whatever 1920 by 1080, that's what I want. Square pixels is what I want. Frame rate 29.97, sure, that's fine. Resolution, I'll stick with full. And then let's make this thing only 10 seconds long. So the way this works is the first set of numbers is frames. There's about 30 frames per second. And then the next set is seconds. So we're going to put a 10 in there. We're going to have 10 seconds long. The background color, let's just do black, that's fine. I'll hit OK. So now that's going to pop that back up since we actually have a composition at ready, basically. And we have our 1920 by 1080 comp with nothing in it. First thing I want to do is create a new text layer. And with that, I'm going to come up here and grab my text tool or horizontal type tool. That's Command T or Control T to grab that. And then I'm just going to click on my canvas or space here. And we're going to type in how about we'll type in this time text reveal. All right, and more than likely your text is not going to be this large or positioned the same way as mine. So over here you can find the character panel, which you can change the font. I use DIN 2014 Narrow. That is a typekit font if you want to sync it. We'll just stick with regular. You can set the text size over here, so we'll do 200 on that. You can set the spacing as far as the tracking between the characters. That changes how much space is between. I like to give that a little bit of space. And then what else do we have? We can actually go down to paragraph. We can center it or align it one way or the other. I'm going to center it up. And now that I have it centered, I've got it the size I want it to be. I'm going to go back to align. And by the way, all these panels, if you're not seeing them, once again, first off, default workspace, but also just go to Window and then find the panel, whether it's paragraph, character, or align. And so I'm going to open up a line, and we're going to align it to the composition and just center it completely, both vertical and horizontal. All right, so once we have our text in the center, we're good to go. Let's create our little bar shape. So I'm going to do that by going back to the selection tool. The shortcut key for that is V. I'm going to click in the gray space here off of any of my layers, so I don't have anything selected at all. And then I'm going to go up to the pen tool. I'm going to grab that pen tool, and I'm just going to create a point here. I'm going to hold shift and create a point down here. So this is our bar. But currently, and you'll notice it created a shape layer down here in our layers panel. Let's go ahead and rename that. I can, I believe, just sort of click on that. No. If I click on it and hit enter, I'm going to be able to rename it, or I can right click rename. And let's name this guy bar. I'm just going to hit enter to commit that. And then let's drop down and check out some of his properties. We actually have transform properties, and this is how After Effects works. There's a bunch of stuff you can twirl down, but the transform properties we'll get back to with position. And let's go to the contents first, and you'll notice that shape 1 is in there. That shape is basically the bar that we drew. And if I drop that down, I see I have more options. And I even have strokes and fills. Currently there's a fill. I don't want a fill, so I'm going to go ahead and go up here to fill, click on the word fill, and I'm going to turn that off with the little slash none and hit OK. And I do want a stroke, so I'm going, and actually you can also hide fill by just clicking the eyeball over here, which I just learned. So that's how this is going to go. So now I can show the stroke here. I can do the same thing by clicking this and showing it. And then I can also drop this down and adjust how large of a stroke this is, how many pixels, and that's also up here as well. So there's different spots that you can affect these. I can also adjust the cap, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a round cap on this guy, and the miter join doesn't matter because we don't have any corners in this bar. So that's it. That's just literally drawing my my little bar. And so we got the bar drawn. Now I'm going to minimize this. Another thing we need to do in order for it to actually sort of exist and grow out of nothing, we need to add trim paths. So you'll see as you have this drop down, in this contents section there's an add button, and I can click on the little arrow and it's going to pop up a little panel. And let's go ahead and bring this, I'm going to bring this panel, if I click between these panels I can slide this panel up a little bit so we can see our layers a little bit better down here, because we're going to get pretty crazy on the layers as far as drop downs. So if I just drop this down and look, I can find trim paths, and if I click on that it's going to add it to my contents. And I could drag this trim paths directly into the shape 1 if I wanted to. Technically you can have multiple shapes on the side of this thing, so if you want to trim paths on separate shapes you can do it by dragging it onto those shapes. So now that I have trim paths, I can drop this down, and I have a start and an end. And if you see what these do, if I just grab this percentage of the start and drag it, notice how it basically trims that path. Oh, fancy. I wonder why it's called trim paths. And then the same thing happens. Let's say this is at 50%. If I take end from 100 back to 50, it's basically taking the end point and bringing it back. Same thing with the start. It's taking the start point and bringing it towards the end. So you have a start and an end to the path, right? 0% to 100%. So we're just moving the start and end points. I'm going to take them both to 50. And from here, let's go ahead and add our first keyframe. And our keyframes we're going to add to both the start and the end. So I'm going to click the little stopwatch on both start and end. We just added 2 keyframes out here. Now let's go ahead and scrub out here with our time indicator a little bit. And we'll go out maybe 10 frames. So you can see we went out 10 frames, and you can actually go to that timestamp if you want to go to exactly 10 frames. I'm going to hit OK. We'll add another keyframe here. I can do that by clicking on the little diamond button over here. It's going to pop in another keyframe and another keyframe. So the first set here, and by the way, J and K will jump you between keyframes. Also, these arrows will jump you to the next and previous keyframes. But basically, we've started sort of invisible, but both our endpoints are in the center. So if I jump to this next one, I would want both the endpoints to go back to where they were to reveal the bar. So we're going to take start back to 0, and we're going to take end back to 100. And because we keyframed this, Now if we look at this and I click off so you can see it, as we play it, our bar builds. Very easy. Bar builds. So let's go ahead and close it back up. Let's go out here to something like 1 second. I'm just going to type in 100. It's going to take us to that 1 second mark. If I click on this little timer here, or this time over here. I don't know what everything's called, so I'm sorry if I'm calling these things wrong. But anyway, from here, obviously we're going to swipe across, and we're still going to be revealed over here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a keyframe for both the start and the end, because between these 2 points, as we move, I want them to stay visible. I don't want them to do anything. However, we'll do the same animation here sort of in reverse. So I could grab these 2 keyframes, copy it with Command-C or Control-C on a PC. Let's move ahead 10 frames. So I'll just click on my little timer thing here, and I'll change this to 10 frames to move ahead 10 frames. And here, we're just going to paste. So we pasted those original keyframes in. So now we basically go from 0 to 100, stay at 100, and go back to 0. So our animation now is essentially our bar growing and then disappearing. So we've got that part of it done. Awesome. Let's go ahead and move the bar across our text. So we want him to end up sort of over here for a second and then go back. So let's say we want him to grow first, right? We want him to grow, so we'll start at these keyframes here. And instead of this, we can go ahead and minimize this trim paths, we can minimize this shape, and we can even minimize the contents, but we're still on the bar layer, the bar object here. We can go drop down transform, and we're going to turn on the stopwatch here so we can add a keyframe for position. So I want the position to start right there where it's at. And then let's say we want him to slide across in 10 frames. So we're currently at that 10 frame marker. You can see it here or here. If we take this and we delete that and we say, how about we go to the 20th frame, that'll go 10 frames out there. And from here we can actually change our X value. So we can literally click and drag this out and you'll see the bar moves across. And then we can just drag it to where we want that bar to stop for a moment and let go. So now what we have is the bar growing and then sliding across super quick. So we'll adjust the timing on that. But that's the keyframe that we want. We want it to go across. And then we want it to hold there, right? So let's go ahead and add another keyframe. I'm just going to jump ahead 10 more frames. So we'll delete this and we'll add 30 and it'll take us to the right spot, which is basically that 1 second mark. And here I'm just going to add another keyframe. And then once again, we'll just click copy with Command-C or Control-C that first keyframe. Move out here another 10 frames, so we'll move out to the 110 mark. And we will just paste in that keyframe with Command-V or Control-V. So now, and let's go ahead and go back to, let's minimize everything. So that key earlier that I used, the U key, they call it the Uber key. If I hit U, it's going to show me all my properties that have keyframes. So now we've added, with this start end, we've added sort of the reveal, the build of it, and then with the position, we've added the movement of it. But we need to tweak sort of where all these things happen because it's moving back and it's disappearing at the same time. So let's go ahead and just simply click and drag and grab these 2 points. These right here, the start and end, that's our sort of reveal. We need this to not happen until our little bar gets back, right? So we're going to drag that out. And then let's say that it does do this. It does build and then immediately go across. Okay, that's fine. However, I want it to hold over here for 3 seconds. So currently I'm at the 20th frame. If I click on this and simply add a 3 here, that's going to be 3 seconds and 20 frames. So we're adding 3 seconds. And I'm going to just hit enter, and that's going to bump my cursor out so I know that this is 3 seconds from here. So I'm going to grab these 2 points here and drag them out until we hit that mark. So now it just holds over on the right side for 3 seconds. So we build, we slide across, we hold for 3 seconds, and then we slide back. And then we can bring these keyframes back a little bit because once we slide back, we want him to disappear. So we slide back and we disappear. Easy enough. So if I click off of everything, I can watch that. Build, slide, hold, slide, and disappear. Cool. So now that we've got our movement and keyframes all set here for this guy, and I'm going to grab the position here and just move it out a little bit so that it doesn't just build and then immediately shoot across. We're going to tweak the timing of this later, but for now we're going to create our mask. So let's minimize this and then click in the gray space. So click off of all your layers. We don't want any layers selected. We're going to zoom out up here. So I'm going to click into the composition area, hit Command minus or Control minus to zoom out just a little bit. And next we're going to create a shape. So I'm going to go up here to my rectangle tool. Shortcut key is Q. I'm going to grab that rectangle. I'm going to go ahead and add a fill of white. That's fine to have. And then no stroke on that. And then I'm going to create a rectangle that is long enough to cover up all of my text. So we can start out here and just create a rectangle towards our bar if we want to, until we cover up right on the edge of that bar. And we can zoom in here and see with Command plus now where we hit on that bar, and we can edit where that sort of falls. And if you just kind of move it so it's halfway over the bar, that'll be a good spot for revealing the text. So let's zoom out again. So now we have basically this big old shape layer, and then we have our bar, and then we have this text. So we need to tweak a couple things over here. First off, let's go ahead and bring that shape layer below the bar so it's in between the text and the bar. And we can rename it to shape mask if we want to, so we can keep track of it. What I want to do with this guy is go ahead and select on text reveal my track matte. Now if you're not seeing this, come down here to toggle switches and modes. Your view might be like this. If you toggle that back, you'll see track matte. I'm going to set the track matte to alpha matte on the shape mask, I think, or it could be alpha inverted. We'll find out. Alpha matte. Okay, good. So both the shape mask disappears and the text reveal disappears because currently, like I explained earlier, our shape is not over the top of our text, so it's not revealing it. Basically, anywhere the shape is, the text will be revealed. Currently, the shape is not over the text, so the text is not revealed. Now, we want the shape to move with the bar, because right now that shape doesn't move at all. The bar just moves. So all we need to do is on this shape mask layer, in the parent column, instead of none, we're going to select bar. And now the shape is looking at the bar for basically its position. And so as the bar moves, the shape is going to move. So we just created our animation. We can even play it from the beginning with spacebar. So it builds, comes across, and it'll swipe back, and it's gone. Now that's all very kind of static feeling, and I'm going to drag this sort of, well, no, we're going to edit the time on this guy, right? So very static feeling, very quick across. So we want to add a little bit of realism to this, and that's where easing comes in. So we've actually set everything up. Now all we need to do is tweak some of those values on the easing of the keyframes, and we'll be good to go. So on that bar, I'm going to hit the U key, and it's going to drop down every property that has a keyframe. And from here, we need to start setting up some easing. So I'm going to grab these 2 points, and I want to ease into this animation. So I want it to sort of build fast and then slow down as it gets to the end of that build. So we're going to right click on that keyframe assistant, and we're going to easy ease in. It's kind of like a train station. You're coming into the train station, so you're easing into this point, and then easing out would be leaving that point, how much influence that point has on sort of leaving the train station, right? So I like this. It eases into here, but the velocity of this probably isn't very much. So it's probably hard to notice how much of an ease there is on that build. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on one of these points and go to keyframe velocity. This is how I like to think about it. Right now the incoming velocity, so the ease in, is only 33% influence. I'm going to change that to like 90% influence. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to do the same thing for this bottom keyframe. We're going to go to keyframe velocity, right click that, and then we're going to change this incoming velocity to 90% influence. Now what does that do? Basically, if I click on my graph editor here, you can see, as I sort of, let's bring this out a little bit more, that these are my 2 keyframes. And basically this is the speed. So it's like kind of slow, and then it goes really fast right away, and it sort of eases down into this point. The influence is this handle. So the more we sort of click and drag out this handle, the more or less influence this point has on the speed. And so as this sort of flattens out, it gets slower. That is the visual of what we just did to that keyframe. So right now it's 10 frames of animation. Let's see if that's sort of enough. Yeah, I think that's a good sort of pop, and then ease into that point. And then we're going to move across. And of course, the move across needs some easing too. And I think that we're going to double up the time that it takes to move this. And at this point, we've sort of measured everything, but now it's time for the feel, the real feel of it. So we're just going to drag this keyframe out. And what we're doing here is we've grown, and then this is the position down here, right? So this is the slide across. So I want to ease in to this point over here. So I'm going to grab this keyframe that is the position over here. We're going to do keyframe assistant, easy ease in, and then we're going to do the same thing. Velocity, let's do like 90%. That's just a very, you can go up to 100%, and it's just kind of a feel thing, right? So let's see what happens. It sort of builds and then slides across. Now it's still a little choppy through there, so let's give it some more keyframes. You'll see as we drag this across further away from the original position, it's just going to take longer to go across there. You see that? And you can see how it goes kind of quick, and then it slowly eases into the final position. I think I want this to ease out of this point actually. And so I'm going to right click, go to keyframe assistant, easy ease out this time. And then I'll do the same thing. I'll right click that, keyframe velocity, and we'll do, instead of this incoming, we want outgoing. And I'm going to change the influence to 90% on that and hit OK. And let's see what that looks like. So it kind of has a little bit of slow going, and then it's got a pop in the middle, and then it eases into that last point. But I do think that this takes a little too long to text reveal. So let's go to this 20 frame mark and just bring this back here. And it's all about feel. So let's watch it. Let's see it build. Slide across. Good. I like that feel actually. So let's see, we want that to be exactly the same coming back. So we can see that we're at the 15th frame, and we go to 120. All right, so that's like 1 second and 5 frames. So if this one is at 4, 1 second and 5 frames back would be probably 225 or so. So we're going to change this to 225 to move our cursor 1 second and 5 frames back. And so this is where I want to drag this point here. And so the animation coming back is going to be sort of the same as the one going across. So same thing here, we're going to ease out of this point as we leave it and come back, and then we're going to change the keyframe velocity to 90%, hit OK, and then this guy over here, we got to click on him and then right click, ease into his point, and we're going to change his to also keyframe velocity 90%, easing in that incoming velocity. So we're easing out of this point as it comes back, and we're easing in to the final sort of resting place of our bar. So you watch, sort of eases out and eases in, and then our bar will just disappear. So let's finalize this. Let's ease into that last little disappeared point. We're just gonna we can actually click and drag on both of these and right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease in. That turns them both to sort of easing in. Right click, velocity. Let's just do 90%. This is sort of, got to do this a bunch of times. I'm sure there's quicker ways of doing this, but keyframe velocity 90%. This is sort of a basic tutorial. And so now our whole animation, it builds and eases in, and then it eases out, pops across, eases in, holds for a little bit, eases out, pops across, eases into that final point, and then we sort of ease into the disappearing of our bar. So if I sort of click off of everything, nothing selected, come back to the middle here, and then because we only go to about, I don't know, 4 seconds, almost 5 seconds, I'm going to bring, if we zoom out here with our little, I don't even know what this is called, this little toggle down here, we can zoom out all the way, and I can see the end of my composition now, because remember we set it up for 10 seconds. I can actually bring this end back to the 5-second mark, and now as we play this, it's going to loop back to the beginning. And so we'll just go ahead and start here, and we'll play it and see what we got. We got a text reveal, hangs, comes back, and disappears. We did it, you guys. I know I probably fumbled through that process, but we did it. And so if you want this guy to hold longer, all you have to do is grab this set of keyframes. You can kind of see this in two halves. This is the build and slide across. And then this is the slide back. And what's the opposite of build? I don't know. Disappear. And so if I want this to sort of stop longer and reveal the text for longer, all I have to do is grab all of these keyframes here and drag them out. And now, while this sort of is playing between, it's just hanging out there, just waiting for it to go back, and then it pops back. Oh, of course it didn't because I have this dragged in, so let's drag this out a little bit. Okay, so it's just hanging out, hanging out, hanging out, and then it'll pop back. So that's how you can change the time in between. And then you can tweak all of these different keyframes. You know, if you wanted it to take longer to build that, you can drag these two out, and that'll take longer to build, and different things like that. So you can really create whatever kind of animation you want. We created one here, you know, that sort of builds and then hangs and then goes back, but use these techniques, these tools, these keyframing and all this kind of stuff. These are basic things in After Effects. Create your own sort of animation. Would love to see what you guys make. Catch me on Twitter or wherever, Instagram, tag me, and I want to see your text reveal animations that you've made. So thanks for watching this tutorial, you guys. I know that this is my first real sort of After Effects tutorial, so I'm sure I fumbled through it a little bit, but I hope you guys got something out of this, a little minimal text reveal animation. Like this video if you like this video. Make sure to subscribe for more tips and tutorials, and I'll see you next time.